So, Leah, who would get this guaranteed livable income, and what amount are we talking about?
Well, if you look at the motion, it would depend on which region you are in. We know that there's different costs of living depending on where you live in Canada, and it would be in addition to existing government programs. Basically, it's anybody who is not earning a livable income. For example, there's many seniors in our community that live in poverty, disabled persons, many that live in, certainly my riding, living in poverty. So it's more like a top-up. So, you know, just to ensure that all Canadians have what they need to live with dignity and human rights.
Would this be for everybody? Is this an amount that every Canadian would get, or is it only for people below a certain income? Do you have to work?
Yeah, it would be. Yes, it would be for individuals that are below a certain income that does not allow them to live with dignity and human rights. There is, across the country, so many people living in poverty. This is not acceptable to me. This government the other day announced that it's spending between $1 and $5 billion in the middle of a pandemic for armed drones. They spend $3.3 billion a year subsidizing the fossil fuel industry. There's all sorts of money that we aren't getting because they will refuse to stop the loopholes in things like offshore tax havens. We need to tax the ultra-rich in this country. We have the means, and I think we've learned that through CERB. Now we need the political will.
So, and speaking of the spending, the federal deficit is expected to hit $343 billion this year. This is a deficit we've not seen since the Second World War. How does the government afford something else on top of all of the other the deficit spending that we're seeing happening?
Well, you know, I think governing is about choices. I mean, during the pandemic, this government it found out of thin air money to finance a pipeline. They found money to finance big corporations. We know through studies like the Minkum study that happened decades ago that when you look after people, it's good for the economy. People are talking about the pandemic going on for another 2 and 3 years. We need this to ensure that we can keep our economy going, that people have what they need so that we can support Canada Health guidelines and keep people safe. That means that they have to be able to afford shelter. I have people in my riding, families, that lost jobs during CERB that are living in shelters. And as this pandemic goes on, we need a long-term solution. Canadians from across the country or anybody living in Canada shouldn't have to wait from one government announcement to the next government announcement to know what their fate is. And I know it has support because we have a petition, Motion 45, on my website, leahgazan.ca/basic income motion. We have over 14,000 signatures. Over 14,000 signatures in just over 48 hours. So there is need. CERB is ending in a couple of weeks. They're transferring it to EI, which only 40% will qualify for. What's going to happen with everybody else? If they can bail out corporations, they can make sure that people are looked after. We need to divest from corporate welfare and invest in people.
I'm sure you've heard this, you know, people saying if you're going to pay people to stay home, there's no incentive for people to work. What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, certainly people say that, but research actually says otherwise. So if you look at pilot studies that have happened on the positive impacts of basic income, people actually still go to work, but we have cost savings. It pays for itself. There, you know, physical and mental health improves, the crime rates go down. Looking after people is good for the economy. Poverty costs a lot of money, and we need to measure the cost of not looking after people in society and how we could do things better with a guaranteed livable basic income.
We've done stories talking to people on front lines about some of the unexpected challenges that CERB has caused, leaving communities dealing with everything from overdoses to increased violence, even here in Winnipeg Centre. You know, organizations say that they're seeing the struggles that this influx of money has had. You know, how does that factor into what you're proposing?
Well, look, I mean, this isn't an issue of money. This is an issue of long-term underfunding, certainly in Winnipeg Centre, the third poorest riding in the country. We need investments into things like mental health supports, frontline community organizations. Keeping people poor is not going to solve the social ills in the community. We need to look after people properly. We need to look after people as whole human beings, and that means ensuring that their human rights are respected and that all people can live in dignity.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. We will see where it goes next.
Yes, thank you so much, and stay safe and wear a mask, people.
Thanks, Leah.
Take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.